I am a bad driver and I'm a businessman, and I would just love to get in the car, be able to work. It would make life so much more enjoyable. Give me a number. How many years till that?
Gee, I would say another 15 to 20 years. I think Elon Musk is one of the most important people on the planet. Like, I give him a lot of crap because my expectations of someone like him are like as high as they get. He chose to change the world, and I think we all should be grateful to him. Like, I think Joe Rogan is everything that's wrong with our country in one person. Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
I've never heard anyone say that. All right, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to the Sean Lowery Show. This is episode 39, and I am so excited to talk to my guest today. His name is Alex Guberman, and he's the host of the YouTube channel E for Electric, which is about electric car news and industry interviews. And he's an industry insider and electric car expert. So, Alex, what's going on? Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. These are some tough times, but also like exciting times because we get to be in front of our computers and look at everything that's happened in the last few years, right? Out of boredom.
Dude, absolutely. Maybe that'll come up about the virus and everything. I'm sure it'll come in context sometime. But everyone's talking about it and think about it. So we're gonna go and talk about something else, which is cool.
Yeah.
But, all right. So yeah, honestly, I appreciate you so much going on. I want to set up the stage, and on my podcast, I have people that are like experts on certain things that I'm really interested in and that I'm passionate about. And so I'm a business guy. Like, I have an e-commerce store. I'm all about business, and that's kind of my expertise. But I've never been a car guy, and I don't know a lot about electric cars, and I just bought a Tesla, to give you some context. And
congratulations.
Thanks. And
which one did you get?
I got the Model 3, white Model 3. Yeah.
What about the configuration? White, but also how many? Is it dual motor? Is it long range? Does it have the autopilot?
Okay, so these are the questions I'm not the best at, but I got the autopilot, $7,000. Absolutely pay for that because we'll get to this, but the main thing I care about is the driverless element. But to be honest, I'm not 100% sure if I have the long range or the dual motor. Is that crazy to you?
Yeah, it is absolutely. I kind of knew that you didn't because you said that the only thing about your car is that it was a Model 3 and it was white.
That's
usually, yeah.
When I say I'm a car novice, I mean it. And I'm leasing it for 3 years, and I want to see where it goes. But it wasn't the most logical purchase. It's just something that I've had this passion about it for the past year or two, specifically driverless cars and the whole Tesla, Elon Musk thing. And I'm interested in the future and where it goes. So I'm diving into this. I think I got the long range one, but I got the charger in my garage. That's awesome. And yeah, we'll get to it. But that's right. that I'm glad that gave you a little context about my lack of car expertise. So that is right. I feel like everyone you talk to is an expert. So I think that'll be the cool difference between me and you.
Well, it is something new, right? When you talk about gas cars, nobody ever asks you, well, how many miles does it have? Is it long range or a short range? Right. Or how big is the battery? This is all new to everybody. So I bet 95% of the entire world has no idea what we're talking about here anyway. You know what I mean? So exactly. It's all new.
Exactly. And that's the part that excites me. And that's why, I want to bring my audience in and just the whole world into this movement. So my first question is what makes you passionate about electric cars?
Well, so a lot of people, I got my first Tesla in 2012. I've had 3 altogether, and I've decided that I do no longer want to own one. But when I got in 2000, yes, it's a whole different story. But
all right.
When I got one in 2012, I was one of the first 3,000 owners of the Model S that was made, right? And it was not cool to buy a Tesla back then, right? First of all, you're buying an electric car, and all people knew about electric cars is there's this ugly little things running around, with 80-mile range, right? So that was not cool. Buying a car from a brand new electric company that's been, borderline bankrupt for the last few years, was also. So I definitely bought it because of the passion. It wasn't even to the car. Granted, when I saw the car, I was like, oh my God, this is how all cars should be, right? I mean, think about it. Let's just step back. Let's say an alien will come to Earth never been here before, first time visitor, right? Okay, so they'll be like, okay, guys, look, what you got going on? And we'll be like, yeah, we can cure all these diseases with DNA modification. We can fly to the moon. We can make boobs bigger and butt smaller. But then they will be like, hey, what's going on with those things that you guys used to get from one place to another? They're like, yeah, we're still moving them by getting this goo out of the ground and blowing it up 1,000 times under the hoods of our cars, right?
Yeah.
Embarrassing. So when I saw the Tesla Model S, I was like, oh my God, this is what it should always be. And it's like when you saw the iPhone, right?
Yeah. That's so
It was like, oh my God, this is how did we not have it 10 years ago? So I bought it because I was fascinated by the technology, but I bought it because I thought my generation, I'm 43, my generation has not done crap for this planet, right? I mean, my dad has gone through World War II. You know, there's a bunch of generations have sacrificed for this world. We have not. And I thought that one thing we could do is change the world by basically no longer embarrassing ourselves with this technology, but mainly that we don't have to go to the countries that essentially hate us and get oil out of the ground and then pollute the hell out of everything. And then, we're concerned about coronavirus, respiratory disease.
Yes.
But we had a really major respiratory disease for decades on this planet. You know how many people die from the lung-related diseases because of the pollution? It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
It's way more than coronavirus will probably ever kill. So I did it because I thought this would be a contribution to our independence of oil, but also not having to pollute and pollute and pollute. So that was my reason.
That's very admirable. And I would like to say that I wanted to get a Tesla because of the electric element, but I admit I was more intrigued by the driverless element, and therefore my only options were, well, I don't know about my only options. We'll talk about that, but I was intrigued by the Tesla and the driverless stuff. But now that I have the electric car, I joke about I'm doing it for the environment and stuff, and I do care about the environment, and that genuinely is an added benefit. So obviously, one tiny person can't make a difference, but maybe one tiny person who makes a YouTube channel and becomes all about it. So that's admirable. That's awesome. And yes, it's better for the future of the world. And 2012, were there any other cars besides Tesla that were electric? Like how has it changed from 2012 to now as far as electric cars in general?
The only car I could think of in 2012 was the Nissan Leaf. And I believe it was a perfect car to kill the electric car concept once again. The first time GM killed it, right? But this time around, I thought the consumer was going to kill it because, it's an ugly car. It costs more than it should, the equivalent version of a gas car, which is still a lot of times is the case. And it only goes 80 miles on one charge, which is kind of ridiculous. It's just becomes useless. So that was the only option. And honestly, when I saw the Nissan Leaf, I just absolutely hated it. I said, there's no way this is going to work. That's why when people told me about Tesla, I'm like, I'm not going to drive an electric car, So yeah, there wasn't any options that are actual realistic options,
Okay. And you said that you're considering not having an electric car anymore. You just said that, right?
No. I said I'm no longer buying a Tesla. Once I return my third Tesla, I've decided I'm going to at the very least take a break. I'm actually kind of in between. I have a plug-in hybrid right now, but I'm probably going to end up getting a car at the end of the year that's fully electric.
Okay.
But Tesla has, turned me from like a huge fanboy and a super fan into, I think we're going to break up for now.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. And
I want to see other electric cars.
All right, I want to get to Tesla, but for electric cars in general. So, like, what are the criticisms of electric cars? Because it's better for the environment, makes more sense. Like, why does everyone not have them? What are the critics of electric cars saying?
So, you don't even have to be a critic. You just have to look at the world unbiasedly, and this is kind of what I do on my channel. And I do criticize electric cars just because it's my job. If we don't demand for this movement to move forward, we'll never win. I would say number one is charging. So if you have a house, and as you know, you had to install a charger to charge a car. Don't get me wrong, not ever having to go to a gas station and spending about 7 seconds per day on charging, which means you plug it in and you take it out, right? And the car is good to go in the beginning of your day.
And for the people listening, it cost me like $800 to get it installed in my garage.
Right. So it is part of the car. Now, a lot of times you can get credit back from $500, $600, $700 from your utility company. So it's, if you're buying $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 car, it's really just kind of one of those things that you just have to spend. Right. But the problem is, if you live in a house, you don't have a problem. But if you live in an apartment complex or you're a renter in general, this becomes this almost impossible task. Now, there are some states, I think most states now have this law where a landlord cannot refuse an electric car charging station installation. However, the tenant has to pay for it. And that in an apartment complex where you have to run the wires for much further distance than you would in your house from your breaker box, this becomes a thing. And could be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. So essentially, if you don't own your house, and that's where you live, electric car is probably not for you. Even right now, I lived in Silicon Valley for 25 years, and I left about 2 years ago. And when I was leaving, they were building this amazing luxury apartment complex everywhere, and not a single one, and I checked, had any dedicated electric car charging stations in any of their parking lot spots.
Wow.
They would have the community ones, right? Like, oh yeah, we have charging, but you can share a spot with someone else. Like you come in, you have to charge your car to go to work in the morning, and someone's in that spot. And what are you going to do in the morning?
Right.
So infrastructure is a big problem.
Infrastructure. Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's number one.
Inconvenience, number one. Okay.
Right. The number two is, people are not really good with math, right? Especially in this country. Okay. And so when people, and I know it's a new thing because you right now you look at a gas car and it says $30,000, and it's $30,000, and then you have to pay for gas, and then you have to pay for oil changes and so forth. And that's how we look at it, right? With electric cars, it's very different. They're more expensive than an equivalent car that would be the same car if it was a gas version, but you do get incentives, the federal and on a state level. But after that, you don't do oil changes, you don't do transmission fluids flushes, you don't do tune-ups, none. There is really zero maintenance for electric cars. On top of that, electricity, generally speaking, is much, much cheaper than buying gas. So you pay more in car payments, but you pay almost nothing in your energy, definitely nothing in your maintenance. So altogether, it actually equals out to either the same or even cheaper in some ways. But people look at the price tag and they go like, whoa, that's too expensive. But really, if they look at their monthly spending that they would spend on this car, they can actually win. But again, math is not what we usually do here in the United States. And that's why people are a little bit, iffy because they think this is so much more expensive. And it's not.
Okay. Yeah. And those are the main reasons? Because
those are the top two reasons that would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I have a question about the, I heard that in California, you get a tax credit for having an electric car because it's better for the environment.
It's not a tax credit, it's a rebate.
Okay, a rebate.
It's a federal tax credit, but here you literally just get a check, though.
Okay.
You have to make less than $150,000, which, for example, in the Bay Area, is very few people buying Tesla that make less than that.
Okay. So essentially the government is like for it in that way. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true, but I live in Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston's a very progressive city. South Carolina is South Carolina. I heard that they actually don't want electric cars. And I think it's because they have a big BMW plant. Like, so is like the oil industry in the old way of doing things also hurting it? Like the oil industry, like I would imagine if everyone got electric cars, that would hurt the oil industry. Are they in some way stopping it?
So obviously oil industry doesn't like this. However, they will change their ways. Even right now, the oil companies buy the electric car charging networks and stations. And they're actually, like, for example, in Europe, Shell already has a few gas stations. They also have a charging station. So they will change and they will end up providing, they're going to provide us energy no matter what, whether
it's a whole different business model though.
Right. But
they have to adjust. Blockbuster. You have to adjust.
Granted, they're not happy about it, and they will definitely lobby against the laws that will help electric cars. However, that's not why electric cars have not made as much of a
Okay.
leap as they should, especially being this amazing as you now experience.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is this. By law, at least in the United States, pretty much all cars have to be sold through independent dealers. And now Tesla is an exception because, and they had to fight for it. And I believe there's still a couple of states where it's illegal to sell a Tesla because they were able to get this through they're selling their cars directly. There are no dealerships. It's Tesla and you, and that's it. And so you can do that. However, for everybody else, they for example, BMW has to sell their cars not to you, but to an independent BMW dealer, and then the dealer sells it to you. Now, if you ever bought a car, most of the time, you know that they make almost nothing on those cars. Even if they make $1,000 selling you a car, it is in no way, shape, or form paid. Like it paid for like 3 hours of their operations. Okay, so that's not how they make their money. They make their money when you come back and do the tune-up, the tires, well, mainly the maintenance, the tune-ups, the oil changes, and gas cars break way more than the electric cars because way more moving parts. So that's how they make their money. It's like when you buy a printer, right? The HP never made any money on printers. They made money on the freaking $90 cartridges you have to refill it that cost them 3 cents.
Right.
Same business model. Now, electric cars, like I mentioned, don't need maintenance. So there's no money to be made for dealerships.
Right.
And because they're independent, they're looking at companies like BMW and Nissan and so forth and going like, wait a second, so we're going to sell this car at very low profit like we usually do. If anything, sometimes it's a loss. And then we'll never see this customer again so we can actually make money off of them. No.
They don't like it.
And that is, my friend, is the biggest problem with getting these electric cars onto the market, unless it's a brand new company that doesn't fall under this law, like Tesla or Rivian just, I believe, made some progress in Michigan, right? So that is the biggest obstacle on the other end, right? There's charging as consumers, but this is on the other end.
I actually had to drive to Charlotte, North Carolina to get my Tesla. So I feel like South Carolina is might be one of those states that isn't all for it. But yeah, and these are just, markets shift over time in any industry, and the people that are dominating the markets don't like when the change comes of the thing they're dominating. But over time, the best thing rises to the top. And that's kind of, we're at the beginning of that, you think? Middle, beginning?
So we are in the beginning. We're definitely, there's no stopping this. And it's not just because the technology is so much more superior and simply better, but because there are a lot of countries, and unfortunately, the United States is not one, but in Europe and China, pretty much all governments are aggressively making the manufacturers, the automakers, make more and more and more electric cars. Otherwise, they're going to get so much in penalties, and they're going to be harsher and harsher with every year, that all of them, all of the automakers are really turning around because the governments are making them.
And why are the governments making them?
Because the governments don't like their people dying of lung diseases. And
that's a good reason.
Yeah,
Pollution.
Pollution. China and a lot of big cities in Europe, the pollution is so bad that people literally having, a lot of lung problems and deaths. But also in some cases, believe it or not, the pollution is so toxic that the historic buildings, and just for the American audience, the historic buildings in Europe are like 1,000, 2,000 years old. It's a different thing. It eats through the freaking stone and is starting to destroy those beautiful architectural masterpieces with the toxic air. So that's why.
Wow, it's crazy. It's that bad. You never think about it like growing up, but like.
Yeah, and another thing is they also believe in science more than we believe in science in this country. So they do believe that the global warming or the climate change is coming, and it is a problem. And one of the ways to fix it is to start switching to electric cars.
And like, even if you are a hardcore denier, like you still have to see that electric is better than gas. Like there's pretty much no denying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
No, absolutely. And that's why I actually, on my channel, I cover a lot of supercars that are electric. Now, there's not a lot of them. There's a few, but the electric powered vehicles just simply have so much more torque that every electric vehicle, including your Tesla, has a software limiter so your motor won't just jump out of the car. Because these motors, even though they're like this big, they're not big motors, but they're so powerful and the torque is so harsh that they have to limit it. So, for example, the hypercars like Pininfarina or Rimacs will go 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. That's better than pretty much most Ferraris, Bugattis, and so forth. The big 4-door Tesla Model S does 0 to 60 better than most supercars at 2.4, right?
Wow.
So the performance is so much more superior. And on top of that, again, no maintenance costs and just all these amazing toys, self-driving. It's just 100 times better.
I feel
it's unfair. It's unfair to call these cars. That's how much like next level those things are.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel so much different in this conversation now that I own an electric car. I feel like I'm helping the world a little bit, and it's true. So that's awesome. They're coming, and that is a great reason to be passionate about it, like you are. So the driverless stuff, right? That is like the thing I'm interested in the most because, first of all, I've learned over the years that I suck at driving. Unfortunately, I actually haven't gotten an accident.
You and the rest of the world, yeah.
I haven't gotten an accident in like 8 years or so, but I'm just, my fiance is always yelling at me. I'm just not paying attention. Like I've had a few close calls. Like, I don't know. I'm not that good at driving. I don't like paying attention. But so what's the relationship between electric cars and driverless cars? Because for me, they're almost like one and the same, but what is that relationship just a coincidence because new technology is electric and then driverless cars are new technology, so they seem to be the same?
Just stop right there. You're absolutely nailed it. That's right. There is no connection.
No connection.
Driverless technology is completely different, but because you're right, the electric cars is the sort of a future tech and self-driving cars is future tech. So they're together. Like for example, one of the other better attempts at the autopilot, it's called Super Cruise. It's in a Cadillac and it's fully gas-powered car. So as you can see, there's really no connection between the two. Yeah.
Okay, it's just a coincidence that it seems like that. There's no.
It's not a coincidence. You're right. No, it's not a coincidence. Both things are just basically next generation car technology, and that's why they see them in the same type of cars, but but not in the Cadillac.
Gotcha. I gotcha. So but as an electric car guy, you're knowledgeable about the driverless thing because that's what I want to talk about next because I love that element.
Absolutely, it goes hand in hand. And every time I go to a car show or a media drive, which I do a lot, 2 or 3 times a month, as a matter of fact, those things are always those technologies and displays are always next to each other.
Okay, all right. So the electric cars, I think, maybe aren't moving as quickly because of practical levels. People aren't good at math, the charging situation. But the driverless car thing, I feel like a lot of people have fear of it and they don't like the idea of it. And I love the idea of it so much that I always will fight with someone if they don't like the idea of it. But do you feel like there's a lot of fear around the idea of cars being driverless?
Yes, because it's a fear of a new technology. That's very normal. And the technology, obviously, every time a Tesla, even there's every time Tesla gets in an accident and there's a possibility that autopilot was engaged, it gets a huge publicity. Just like when Tesla, a couple of them caught on fire, and even though that for an electric Tesla to catch on fire is 30 to 40 times less chances to do that than a gas car. It got an entire, country going like, oh my God, these Teslas are blowing up on fires. It's like, not even close. So it's new.
It's new. I always think about, and I tried to look for an article before, I didn't look that hard, but whenever Model T, 1920s, I can't imagine how scared people must have been then. Like there's these death machines out on the road and there had to have been some fear there. And obviously there were the people selling horses that didn't like the idea of people having new ways of transportation, but look at us now. So
yeah. And listen, we're still in the early stages and yes, Tesla probably has one of the best technologies out there. However, here's the thing, the autonomous cars, the self-driving cars, they will be able to see better than us because the cameras are pretty much 360, and they won't just be able to see with cameras. They see with ultrasonic, and some use LiDARs. I mean, Tesla decided not to, but they can see even at night better than anybody. They got cameras. They're not texting their boyfriends and girlfriends, believe it or not, right? So they're paying attention 100% of the time. They're able to make decisions faster than us because it's like instantaneous, right? So they're already better in some ways than us, and they will only get better. Don't forget, there's 40,000 people per year just in this country that die. Forget about people who get injured, die in car accidents, right? And we've accepted that number, which I think we shouldn't have. It's just we never had the answer. Now there's a beginning of something better. But if you ask me, nothing scares me more than a soccer mom driving her minivan, trying to reprimand her kid on the back of the car while texting her husband on her cell phone and trying to take a sip of her, whatever the hell you
basically
sell
me.
at Starbucks.
Basically me tweeting.
There you go.
And listening to Joe Rogan and tweeting and not looking. That's me.
Yeah. So that's what scares me. But an autonomous car that's paying attention at all times can see better and can make better and faster decisions. I think I'm going to go with that. Yeah. Especially those will get better and better and better with every day. Right. And the soccer moms are not.
Yeah. So it's not there yet. So here's like, for the people, so a couple of people asked me like, what's your exact situation with a driverless car? So when I drove it back from Charlotte, I put it in autopilot and it makes the turns on a straight road perfectly. Now you need to keep your hands on the wheel. I actually got locked out on my first drive because I wasn't keeping my hands on the wheel. And if they give you a warning enough times, they won't let you use the autopilot anymore. I actually recently learned that instead of having to keep your hands on the wheel, because I had a little trouble because it was driving for me. They asked me to keep pressure on the wheel. And if I put a little pressure on it, you can't get out of autopilot. And I was frustrated with that. I recently learned that you can, there's a little wheel on the steering wheel that does like volume and things. And if you just keep moving that with your pointer finger or your thumb, it knows your hands are on the wheel. So now I kind of drive, and when I'm going straight with like my finger or my thumb, just rolling that thing and turning the volume up a notch, down a notch. And that works. But I've noticed why you need to keep your hands on the wheel, because there's a few weird little intersections that it'll start going and you gotta yank it back and get it. So it's not perfect, and it doesn't do right turns. It doesn't detect red lights. But if there's a car in front of you, it'll basically detect the red light because it detects the car in front of you and slows you down. So that's where it's at now. So it's I think there's 5 levels of automation. I don't know what level it's at now. Is it 2 or 3?
It's between 2 and 3. Okay. And actually, autopilot is one of the reasons I didn't want to buy a Tesla. And if I was to buy a Tesla right now, I would absolutely not get an autopilot.
Because it's a tease, kind of?
Well, no. So when I bought my second Tesla, it was 2015, and it had the first version of the autopilot. And it was back then it was created by the Mobileye, the company that was bought by Intel and still does the self-driving technology. And then Tesla decided that they can do it better, which they couldn't for many years, and switched to their own in-house software developers. So when I got my AP1 autopilot version 1, you didn't have to keep your hands on the wheel. And then all of a sudden, because they do over-the-air updates like cell phones, which is amazing. And it's supposed to make the car better with every time. But that was one of the updates that made it worse. And at one point, they forced us to keep our hands on the wheel.
Was that a change in the law or something like that?
They had a few accidents that gave them bad publicity, and it was actually, there was no law. That was a self-imposed limitation. And I was like, wait a second, if I knew that, I would not have gotten an autopilot, because if I have to keep my hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, what the hell is the point of me having an autopilot? Yeah. I mean, I can I can do all of this myself if I have to be doing it anyway.
Right.
So that was a problem for me. And and the history of that, once they said we're going to design our own, they couldn't. And for the next version, the Autopilot 2, when it came out, those people ended up having way less features than the Autopilot 1 people. So you can have a newer Tesla and way crappier autopilot.
Really?
And it took him 3 years to get it to the same level as Mobileye had many years ago. So only now in the last year, they started making things actually better than they were back in 2000.
Did the Autopilot 1 make right and left turns for you?
No, but
it was still better.
It was still better than the Autopilot 2 for a few years. And there was a lawsuit that I believe Tesla had to settle for people who had an issue with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I mean, so like how long until it's detecting red lights, making right and left hand turns, and I can sleep?
Yeah. So okay. So you won't be able to sleep for a while.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, but you just
Damn
the
it.
answer to immediate answer to that is to hire an Uber. So at least you have that going for you, and you can sleep all you want. But so Elon just tweeted the other day that at least in the United States, because everything's different between countries, the way signals and stop signs work. So in the United States, they're going to roll out the stopping at stoplights and street lights in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I know it can
Which,
detect. I know it can detect the street lights because I see it. It's got
yeah,
the little street light thing, and it knows if
yeah.
it's red or green. So I'm like, it's got to be coming soon.
So now, when it rolls out, it better work 110% of the time, because you miss one of those and you're dead, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
even
yeah.
if it identifies a green light as a red light, or just doesn't see it and just slows down, you're gonna get hit from behind, right?
Right.
So that's number one. Number two, just like when they rolled out the automatic lane changes, you will have to confirm. So, for example, you stop on a red light, but then before you proceed, you still have to put in to let it know manually that okay, go ahead. So it will determine the red lights, but it won't determine the green lights
Interesting.
for you to go. I'm sure it will go away just like it did with the lane change feature. Um, that one, I'm sorry, just based on the history of Tesla's autopilot, I would not trust that one at all, because you can really get hurt if they miss, one or two cases, and there is no, the problem with Tesla is they run it as a software company, right? Because Elon came from PayPal. He was one of the founders of PayPal. So the way you do software, you try to get it, as good as possible. But if you're a Windows user, for example, or really any software user, they'll roll it out. There will be a bunch of bugs. People will complain, get hacked. They'll fix it, right? Well, but nobody dies from that. Yeah, your credit card gets stolen, but nobody dies.
Right.
Well, this is different. And the fact that Tesla is running, Elon is running Tesla like a software company, you become the quality assurance engineer for them, and you kind of can pay with your life, or at least get hurt. So I myself would not trust that at all, because again, to me, it's 100% has to work type of a feature,
Right.
and Tesla does not have a good history with that.
All right, so it's a while till I'm sleeping, and I want to talk about Tesla next. But my other big question. So let's assume, and I think it's a safe assumption, at some point, no matter how long away it is, all cars will effectively work level 5 automation. The question I think about them is, what does the world look like then? Is everyone still own their cars, and is everyone still, or is there more of an Uber network that we can all just rent cars for? What do you think once level 5 automation arises and the public gets used to it, and we're all accept, and there's 0% accidents out on the road? What do you think the world will look like then?
So there are two parts to that. One is, cars will basically become pods. There will be pods that you get into, and and it depends. So I see a lot of car companies now are thinking about that, and not only they already know what they're going to look like. They're going to look like pods, but
are the chairs going to be facing each other and
yeah, okay, so that's the thing. Actually, you will be just like your living room. You'll be able to configure that. If you're a single guy who is a businessman, you'll probably have a chair, a desk, a computer, and a TV set, right? What you would have in your office.
So
but
cool.
If you have a family with 2 kids, you'll probably have a little love seat and a little playground for your kids and stuff like that. Again, the safety regulations with seat belts probably will be loosened up, just because it's going to be much safer to do. So this will be custom made for you, almost, or custom configured, kind of almost made out of Legos, right? You'll be able to pick those with your living room. So that's what they're going to look like. Now, as far as whether or not everyone's going to switch to the Uber concept, like Elon Musk thinks, I don't believe so. Because let's think about what we already have, which is Airbnb, right? So I travel a lot because I go to all the shows and stuff like that. And my bed in my house is empty, right? So technically, I can rent it out and make some money. Well, I don't do that because I don't like other people sleeping in my bed and pooping in my toilet. And God knows what else they're going to be doing while I'm away. So I want my bed to sit there, losing money, just so I can come back to my clean sheets and my clean blankets on the floor, right, and the ceiling. So I think the same thing is going to happen. People will still own their pots that will be taking up space and doing nothing most of the time,
Right.
like our cars do now.
Right.
But for the sake of, hey, I want my pot to be clean when my
People,
kids are
yeah.
playing.
We're still gonna be humans.
Yeah.
And like,
So, but yeah, there will be Uber services for people who, need rides from the airports or who got drunk in
yeah.
downtown and need to get home. And,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't think it's going to switch.
But you might be able to use your own car if you get drunk downtown and need to go home, right?
Yeah, that's true too. But sometimes people like they'll go to walk to a friend's house and
Right,
then they would.
right, right,
So you know what I mean? Like there will be.
right,
I'm just saying Uber will still exist, but I
right.
don't think it's going to be all about Uber like Elon thinks.
And yeah, it's interesting. What about like sending your car to the grocery store to get groceries for you and having to come back?
It was going to be kind of the other way around, right? And that's what they've been kind of working on now, right? You will place an order with Amazon or Safeway online, and the robots will go and pick the bananas out of the warehouse and then put in their own driverless vehicle.
Nice.
And most likely you will be able to actually, I mean, and probably not the near future, but at some point where those deliveries will make it into your fridge from like a little hatch in your house or whatever. Where you don't have to worry about it. Your safe will be delivered, and your refrigerator will be just automatically replenished.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. So once we get to level 5 automation, some people could probably make the argument that people having their own car is like a waste of space. Like, but humans are still human beings and like having their own property, like having their own smell, their own safety, not having be in the same cars as other people. And I actually have thought about this and I thought the same thing. I think people will still own them and want to have their own, just for the same reason you don't rent out your apartment because you don't want someone sleeping in your bed. So I can't wait for level 5.
I don't want someone sleeping in my bed when I'm not there. Just want to be clear about that. Okay.
Fair enough. To the ladies listening. To the ladies
yes,
listening.
yes.
All right. Fair enough.
Yes.
Awesome. So that is the thing that thought is the thing that got me so excited about this topic to begin with, because I am a bad driver and I'm a businessman and I would just love to get in the car, be able to work. It would make life so much more enjoyable. And I can't wait for that. Give me a number. How many years till that?
Oh,
no one knows. I get it's a prediction.
Well, it's not that no one knows. Like I could tell you a couple of months ago, but now with what's happening now, right? We don't really we know so many things can change in this world so fast. Level 5, you're talking about level 5?
Yes. Level 5.
So level 5 meaning when you'll be able to get the first level 5 car, or when everyone's doing level 5, right? Because
level 5,
your accident can still happen even though you have a level 5 car, but someone's still driving the minivan, that soccer mom we were talking about, and you're screwed still, right?
Right. I mean level 5, including the public perception of accepting it, basically at the point where governments will say, you know what, you don't need seatbelts. That's what, how long till then?
Oh, until then, we're talking about, so all of these other cars would have to be off the road,
right?
Or majority of them,
yes,
right? So,
yes,
and we're kind of a statistically based country a lot of times, right? I would say another 15 to 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll still be alive, most likely.
That's great. Yeah, I thought you might say a little longer. I like that. 15 to 20 years.
It's really hard to predict, right? But I would say that would be a reasonable, educated guess.
Okay, and I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the thing that will make that longer than shorter will be the public, the people getting the old cars off the road, people getting over the fears, like society starting to accept that this is a safe way, not looking at the road when you're driving. Like, I think that part will take longer than the technology. Do you think so?
Yes, but also there's government regulations, right? A lot of this stuff is actually up to the local governments, up to the states. And for example, here in California, I think we'll, as always, going to be kind of ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah.
But manufacturers are not going to be selling them if all 50 states, or at least most of them, are going to allow it. So we're only going to go as fast as the slowest state.
Fair enough. Yeah. Hey, I would sign right now for 20 years. It's for me to be sleeping in my car.
But again, all you have to do is get a chauffeur or a driver, and you're good to go.
No, I don't want the chauffeur. I don't know. I don't know. If I want to, have my lady friends in the car, my fiance, you can't have a chauffeur in there,
Well, there are configurations that they can think of where you can, but all right.
Fair enough. Sweet. Oh, I love that conversation. I'm so excited for level 5. But yeah, the next thing I kind of talk about was just Tesla, Elon Musk. So you said you had some like a little bit of criticisms about Tesla, like, but they are like they have some type of aura around them, something special about them, right?
They are indeed kind of became a kind of a cult, right? Like
Yeah,
Apple,
right.
so you can almost compare them to religion because you can see. I mean, I get a lot of comments every time I make a video that would criticize Tesla or even praise another car maker. You have these guys like a little army coming out.
Mm.
My problem with Tesla is mainly twofold. One is as a customer, right? I've been a pretty loyal fan and I've bought into their, a revolution from day one when I was risking my money and I wasn't making that much money to really.
You were one of the first 3,000, you said?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. As a matter of fact,
that's loyalty.
yeah, absolutely. And and I would take this car and I would drive them to like Earth days and everything and let people get their kids inside my car with ice creams while checking it out because I wanted to promote it, right? I wanted people to love these electric cars. But with time, I realized that they are a company that needs to make money, have to have their stock up, and that took such a higher priority that the customer service has gone down to probably one of the worst ones I've seen, not in the car industry, but just in general.
Wow.
You can literally call them and they won't pick up, or you can email them with a problem and they just won't reply. The only time I've had this where somebody would just ghost me in the beginning of the conversation is on Tinder, right? That's the only sort of acceptable way. But from a car maker with a customer service to not return calls or pick up is not acceptable. I already told you about how they screwed their customers with a second version of autopilot.
Yeah.
They've sold cars and discounted them in just 1 or 2 months after coming out by thousands of dollars and therefore devaluing the people who paid originally, the first adopters, right? So they've screwed people over and over again. It hasn't cost them yet anything because the fan base is so big that people like me go like, no, thank you. But there's plenty of people to replace me and take my spot.
Like me.
You're right. So, but at some point it has to catch up to them because there will be only so many people willing to put up with this horrific customer service. And not everybody has a horrific customer service, but I know because I run one of the largest Tesla Model S owners groups on Facebook. I can see other people having my same type of experience as me over and over and over again. So that's number one. And number two, not that it really matters. This is more of as a electric car journalist. Obviously, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Sometimes things that he says and does are unacceptable. So I mean, we don't even have to go that far. I mean,
actually, I love an example.
Okay, well, an example has been only happened 3 weeks ago when Elon started tweeting things how coronavirus is not a big deal. It's going to go away, by the end of April.
Really?
And that he gave a couple of charts that were mathematically and statistically misleading, even though it actually said on the chart.
That.
And what he did was he basically disobeyed the shelter-in-place order I believe they're in Alameda County, in the Bay Area. And he basically continued running his factory until like sheriff's department and government officials had to intervene and shut it down. Yes. Essentially you're putting your workers in place for the sake of profits, right? And look at all of these greedy corporations that we've have that all not only have shut down their factories and their facilities knowing that they're going to lose money, but also paid their workers for weeks and weeks and weeks. Now, Tesla just announced a couple of days ago, or at least it leaked, that they're laying people off and they're going with pay, they're cutting salaries and everything. So to me, when you have 30 million, however many, and a huge following of people, and you're essentially misleading them and putting your employees that made you all this money at risk health-wise, I have a problem with that.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. What about when he like smoked weed on the Joe Rogan podcast?
So I personally didn't have a problem with that. I'm very pro do whatever the hell you want to, unless it hurts other people.
Right.
But I thought it was incredibly dumb as the CEO of a company. Now, he actually got in trouble for that with SpaceX, because don't forget, SpaceX gets a lot of money from NASA and contracts, because and NASA is a federal organization,
Right.
and smoking marijuana is still illegal on a federal level.
Right.
So SpaceX, NASA, I believe, ordered an investigation and reevaluation of their relationship, which delayed things for SpaceX. So again, nothing, no big deal, nothing personal, but extremely dumb as a CEO and a businessman.
Okay. Yeah, like Elon Musk. I didn't actually know about all that, like cost cutting and the factory stuff. But and like, do people think that he might be like spread thin? Because I think I saw you were you at the Boring Company thing with an underground a tunnel?
That's where I met him personally. Yeah.
Like, what was that experience like?
Well, that event was kind of low key. You know, I've been to pretty much all Tesla events, I guess, including the Cybertruck unveiling and the semi-truck unveiling. That was a pretty low key event. Tesla, you know, compared to other media events, Tesla usually is the worst. And to the journalists in terms of in the way they organize things. But again, their fans love it because they don't really care, and they don't even know how other events organize. But it was very low key. I mean, I enjoyed it, and you know, it's
like is a potential beef of him how he is kind of spread thin and does a lot of other activities? Because I don't know if I was like, what are you doing for Tesla, and you see him doing all these other projects, is that a complaint people have about him?
I guess no. I mean, he knows he's spread thin, but like, for example, he has a problem. He's a control freak, as a lot of geniuses and innovators are. Like, Steve Jobs was the same way, and he's very controlling when it comes to Tesla. But when it comes to SpaceX, I believe he lets the forget the name of the person who actually runs SpaceX kind of do their own thing. And I think Boring Company is very similar. But yeah, he's definitely working probably majority of the time when he is awake. You know, so yeah, he is. But that's how they are. That's how innovators are.
Yeah, and he's a special guy with how he can manage his time.
Let me just mention it. I think Elon Musk is one of the most important people on the planet. Like, I give him a lot of crap because my expectations of someone like him are like as high as they get. But overall, he is one of the most important people in the world, and I think he's changing the world. One of the few people who are actually changing the world in the right direction by sacrificing his time, his family, and everything. You know, once he sold PayPal, like he could have bought an aisle and just had an amazing time for the rest of his life. But he chose to change the world, and I think we all should be grateful to him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I love Elon Musk. Like, I don't know as much about him as you, but it's just the idea of him is so cool. And I think it's someone who will be in the history books that we look back on. But yeah, your criticisms of Tesla are the customer service. And actually, I was gonna say, when we went to pick up our Tesla, it was so funny. My fiance was in the car. She's like, "Do we have it now?" Because like the guy came out and he's like, "Yeah, this is how you do this. That's how you do this. Go ahead." And we were like, "All right." And we just like hit the gas for the first time. It did seem like their customer service wasn't amazing.
Don't call it the gas pedal. It's an accelerator pedal.
I will never call it that again. I will never call it that again. I just did it. See, accelerator pedal. Okay,
accelerator pedal.
And it's still called a brake, right?
Yeah, there's still brakes.
I'll never make that mistake again. But the criticism of Tesla, their customer service, and Elon Musk being a little
well, he's done that before.
Nervous.
I mean, he has done some really crappy things before. And a lot of times, just like a lot of people who are, geniuses like this, he doesn't come back and apologize a lot of times when he knows he was wrong. And I think that's a really negative trait, especially someone who has so much, power and say in what happens,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in like politics, you see that works, which is crazy. But so, and you said you met him personally?
I met him personally, so it was really weird. So that video that you probably see on my channel is me really taping him like right in his face, because I realized that when I met, well, it was the wrong time to actually have a conversation with him, because everyone was pushing their blonde girlfriends to him so they can promote their businesses to him and ask him for jobs and stuff like that. So once I saw that happening, I was like, this is not the right place to talk to the guy. But I don't know if it wasn't on camera, if it wasn't an interviewing process that I would want to, questions that I would want to ask, which they would never, ever let me do. I don't know if I would want to talk to him personally. It's kind of weird. Like, I don't I don't really have.
You think he's just kind of a dick?
Well, he definitely is, and again, that's fine, and I think that's how you have to be
Yeah.
to be in his position. But what I'm saying is that I don't think I have much of a personal conversation to have with him, and I didn't, even though I was hanging out with him for a little bit. But I have a lot to talk about on camera if I had a chance.
Okay. You'd probably love to have that. You said you would like or not like to have that opportunity.
I would
On
like, but
camera.
the Tesla people will never let me do that. They only let people who throw softballs and praise
Gotcha.
him. But there's no there's no
Gotcha.
way.
Cool. So yeah, kind of last thing about Tesla is you were at the Cybertruck thing. That was like I was watching it. Everyone was talking about that. What do you think about the throwing the ball and breaking the window?
Well, by the way, speaking of a cult, right? He rolls out. So I remember being in the media area when they rolled out the Cybertruck, and we were all convinced because we were like, "What is this?" And we were all convinced that what's going to happen is because it was just so poorly. So we thought that the thing was going to kind of come apart, and a real Cybertruck was going to come out. It took us a while to realize that this is it.
Really?
Yeah. Now, throwing balls at the car. I mean, you can argue that there's no bad publicity, and the broken windows have actually given them more publicity in the mainstream media if it otherwise would.
Yes.
So I would
agree.
say that was probably a positive thing.
But you think it was on purpose?
No, it was not on purpose.
No chance.
No, that would be stupid because you could tell. I mean, I don't know how it looked on TV, but in person, it sucked the energy right out of the room. And Elon was so off after that.
Yeah.
He was essentially just having to look back and see which slide is on. I mean, he was like a fifth grader who didn't prepare for a presentation. Yeah.
And he tweeted right after, like a video of them throwing it off the window earlier, and it bounced off fine.
Right.
So that was a genuine, like, just live mishap.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, overall, you can argue that that was the best thing that happened to the unveiling. But at that moment, it was like, wow. And they did it twice, too. That's another thing, right?
Yeah.
So
that's so funny that you did not think it was like the real car. And
nobody did.
And you got to drive around in it a little bit?
So they didn't let us drive it. A lot of times, we had a ride. As a matter of fact, I was the first YouTuber to post the inside of the Cybertruck. So that was pretty cool because I was one of the first people to be in there.
That's
I believe
amazing.
only Marquez Brownlee and Dan from What's Inside, but they didn't post right away. I knew that I had to post right away.
Yeah.
So I had everything ready to go, my thumbnail, the fast speed connection. And as soon as I got out of the truck, I posted it and boom, one of my most watched videos
amazing,
on my channel.
That's smart. Yeah. And I love this conversation. And like, so this is a business podcast, like a little bit. And I see you're doing like a great job with your channel. Like E for Electric. You have 60,000 YouTube subscribers, 340,000 on TikTok, 11,000 on Instagram. You got a big following. Like, how do you like you make a living from this? Like, is it like, what's your main thing from this? Like the YouTube views?
Yeah, so until 3 weeks ago, I actually had corporate sponsors. I mean, I still have one, but my biggest sponsors have dropped out. I think we're all gonna, feel the pain for a while.
Okay.
So yes, YouTube is where I make my full-time income. I've been doing it for a couple of years, but it is a small business still. I mean, like I had to move to Sacramento, and I had to cut down on a lot of expenses to start a business. Which is what small business owners do, as you know.
Right.
And I've done better and better with every year. But now, like even now, so here's the thing: I'm in a niche where even though people are at home watching YouTube, they don't care about electric cars. So like electric car community's views are down right now. So and again, like my sponsors have all kind of fled. So it's gonna feel I'm feeling the pain, but overall, this has been a great, it's hobby turned a full-time job.
Okay.
And also the fact that I'm able to travel and see all of these cars in person and meet people like, I've met CEOs of a lot of different companies that over the year. And, I'm going to show some footage of it.
Love
but, just to talk to people who are actually in charge of our future as far as automation is concerned. I just was one of my last trips was to Detroit, and this is the CEO of Rivian. My last trip was to Detroit. I got to meet the CEO of General Motors, Mary Barra, and talk to her in person for a while. Um, what her vision is, because you can talk to them or listen to them on TV and talk to them on camera all you want, but until you actually talk to them in person behind the scenes, you don't know if their heart is actually in it, right? So that's important. And just seeing, like, I've toured many factories and been to different unveilings, and as you can see, I test drive prototypes, something that's not going to be on the market for many years to come. So I have a pretty good glimpse in the future, and that's great. But the overall, YouTube business is, it's just like any business. You have to run it as a business. As much as fun you can have making the videos, it's still a business. You got to look for sponsors. You gotta review contracts. Just
Yeah.
like everybody else.
Yeah. I like when I asked you, I said, like, you're a great marketer. And you're like, I'm not a marketer. I'm more of like a journalist. And I respect you taking that like lane. Because like we said, electric cars aren't going anywhere. You already have this huge community of electric car people. And you're only 43. So as the whole world moves to electric cars, I think you're going to be one of the faces of it.
I hope so. I hope so. And it's YouTube is a weird place. And so is TikTok and other social
Yeah,
media,
TikTok.
right?
How'd you get that big TikTok following? Just kind of
Well,
being an early adapter?
absolutely. When you
Yeah.
see, here's the thing about social media. I'll tell you the secret.
Okay.
Most people who have like millions of subscribers and followers, they mainly fall into two categories: early adopters and lucky, right? You can follow all of the rules that YouTube algorithm wants you to do and put together all of this. But bottom line is this: if you're on a platform early, and okay, I'll give myself some credit. I was smart enough to identify TikTok as a new platform that's going to be big, because I got on there over a year ago, and that's
Wow.
why I'm at 300,000 subscribers with very little effort. Um,
Okay.
and so you can do all of those things, but bottom line, if you're there first and you're like right now, like, I've checked, there are no electric car people. My competition on YouTube is not on TikTok right now, and those people who are not able to figure out how to do it. And if you were to ask me to teach you how to do TikTok, I mean, I'll give you some basic advice, but overall, or if I'll open a second account for myself, I'm not really sure if I can get to 300,000 subscribers in 1 year, So on the other hand, I see other people who do electric car, videos on YouTube and put like zero efforts into their production quality. They're like 2-3 weeks late on each news, and their thumbnails look like crap, and they do so much better than me, right? It's a lot of it is luck, a lot of it being right place, right time. So you can only your real efforts will only get you about 30 to 40 to maybe 50% there, and the rest of it, unfortunately, just like what I think most businesses, is luck and circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. That's great insight. But I do still think you're a good marketer, even if you don't consider yourself one. And you
I
have a good
appreciate it,
and you
but
have a good
yeah,
niche. And you have a good niche.
the niche is great because it's a
Right.
niche that's going to become a mainstream,
Exactly.
right? So that's why I
Yes.
picked it. Yeah,
That's smart. That's smart. And you had a genuine passion for electric cars,
I
right?
live it. I absolutely
Dude,
live
you're
it.
gonna be
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
You're
Like,
gonna
I
be
would have this conversation with you if we just met at a coffee shop. It would
I
go exactly same, and I would be
love that,
waving my
man.
hands just as much.
I love that. I love that. You're so
Yeah.
passionate about it. That's amazing. Oh man. And are you quarantined right now?
I am mainly, but I mean, I have I have someone I'm seeing, so
There
she
you
comes
go.
over,
There
right?
you
And
go.
then I mean, also I have to go to the store. But mostly, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to get this thing because
Oh,
I'm
jeez.
not afraid of like dying from it. I'm afraid of not being able to make videos. So yeah,
Yo,
like
that
that's
is
what I'm
actually
really
that's a
afraid of.
hell of a quote right there.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
So like,
not afraid of dying. I'm afraid to not be able to make
right,
videos.
right. Yeah, that's the latter would be a much
Oh,
worse outcome for
dude,
me.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Oh man. Well, I know when you're huge that I'll at least be able to maybe get some views from having this number one electric car guy on my podcast, Alex Guberman. Dude, anything else? Anything else you have to add? Where do people go to follow you? What do you want them to do?
So on all social media, I'm under E4 Electric. like that with a don't put 4 like you're 15. It's FOR, like M for Mary, F for Frank. So
Okay,
E for electric. And on YouTube is also youtube.com/E for electric. That's where I make my videos. I changed my format just a little bit. I used to make daily videos. Now it's 3 times a week. So that's where you can find me. And definitely electric car news, reviews, a lot of interviews. I have amazing contributors. Like my contributors to the channel are, I can't believe they've agreed to do that. I have a CEO of Faraday Future, Carson Bradfeld. I have Henrik Fisker, one of the legendary designers and, Fiskering CEO. I have Sandy Munro. I have one of the biggest Tesla YouTubers, Rich Rebuilds, and they're all like contributors on a regular basis to my channel. So
That's
if
amazing.
anything, for those amazing people who graciously are giving me their time on a regular basis, I would suggest at least to check those out.
Absolutely. I know Rich Rebuilds was on Joe Rogan, right?
I'm going to tell you
I think
this.
he
You're going
was.
to hate me for it. I really dislike Joe Rogan.
Really?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that. Just give me a quick summary. Why?
It's very quick. I think Joe Rogan is everything that's wrong with our country in one person. Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
I've never heard anyone say that.
Well, there you go. It's if you take all of our negative qualities as a country, Joe Rogan has all of them at once. I mean, yeah, I can even him turning around on Tesla, right? For example, that's, he's always been kind of a non-believer until the CEO of the company shows up and gives them the car essentially, right? To him, he's a moderator of the Ultimate
UFC,
yeah, which to me should never be allowed to be shown on television without R rating or X rating, right? Because
I'm not actually really a big fan of it, to be honest.
Yeah, and so that, and even just the way he comments, it's like a 15-year-old who's watching a school fight and gets off on that, and the fact that he couldn't understand electric cars until literally a CEO of Tesla showed up and explained.
He learned.
Yeah, but that's not how people. I know that's how we learn in America until we get smacked in the head with it. There are better ways to educate yourself. And it comes from having critical thinking and overall a desire to educate yourself, which he lacks in both. And that's why it took Elon Musk.
Oh my God, you're so wrong. You are so wrong about that. He is one of the best critical thinkers. Like he likes to learn things, and he's like the thought leader for America because he's thinking about all these intelligent topics and learning about them as we are and being non-biased about either side. Like maybe the Tesla example, you're right. Maybe he had the CEO of Tesla on and that made him like Tesla more. But with so many other topics, he is fair-minded. He learns with us. He's a thought leader. And that's his whole thing is like doing hard things and learning and building yourself up. I don't know. I love Joe Rogan.
I thought Tesla thing was the easiest one to learn. Like if out of all topics that he covered, this is the one that he should have already been ahead of time. If you're telling me he's such a critical thinker, Tesla was around since, let's just start with Model S when it came out, right? So Tesla's been around since 2012. Joe Rogan had 6 or 7 years to research it, to drive it. I believe he never even drove one until then. What kind of car guy has an opinion on a car and never drives one? And then generally speaking, this car, it won a bunch of awards like car of the year. If you're a car guy, you don't have to like it. You have to go test drive it, right? And he didn't. So that's an easy topic.
He's not really like a car guy. That's just one of the things he talks about. He talks about many different things. And maybe he just didn't get that deep into it and was just giving his opinion.
Stop right there. He didn't get deep into it and yet give his opinion. That's everything that's wrong with pretty much everything that goes on social media and in general media. You just literally nailed it. That's exactly why I think Joe Rogan is the worst of this country in one. Best of package.
Fair enough. Yeah, I disagree. I think he's great.
You're allowed to disagree.
Hey, all right, awesome. Dude, oh man, I fucking love this conversation, man. It's been great. I learned so much about driverless cars. Oh, it's going to be a great podcast. And yes, I like Joe Rogan, but maybe me and you can go on there and debate or something. I don't know. That'd be awesome. I would love to do that. But dude, I wouldn't be surprised if someday you're in that level because you're smart enough to know all about this topic, be early on it. And that is not easy to do. You're early on TikTok, not a coincidence. You're early on this. You know the whole world's shifting there. I'm just someone who shifted, and I feel like I'm early. So dude.
You know what it took for me to get on TikTok early? I mean, you understand people were laughing at me and I had to do those stupid dances and stuff like that. Now, granted, I was making fun of it because I was like triple of an average age on TikTok at that time, right? And
Right.
people were laughing at me, oh, Alex, you know, you're doing all this silly stuff. You look so stupid, right? But guess who's laughing now, right? Because
340,000 followers.
adults show up and I don't do those stupid dances anymore. I
Yeah,
actually
dude.
do what I do now on my channel, which showcase the electric cars.
And
So
at the time, you knew what you were doing. Like you knew that this can get big, and you're just being smart.
yeah, okay, so you can never predict the future, but
Right.
I thought that for the first time in the last 10 or 15 years, I saw a new social media platform that had such amazing potentials because essentially it's YouTube, Instagram, and Vine all in once, right? And it's
Absolutely.
15 seconds, it's vertical, and it's video. We love video,
Yep.
we love vertical format, right? And we don't like paying attention for more than 10, 15 seconds. So I thought it was perfect. And once I saw TikTok ad on the ball that was dropping in the New Year's in a Times Square, and that was, I think, 2018 over 2019. I was like, oh, and they're putting money behind it? Hell yeah, let's do this.
That's amazing, dude. You're a smart guy, and I appreciate it. And yeah, maybe come on again sometime. And in the
Anytime. I love
future.
talking about
Anytime.
this stuff.
Awesome, dude. You're amazing. This has been great. Sweet. All right. Well, everyone, stop what you're doing. Go subscribe to E for Electric on YouTube. And Alex, I appreciate it, man. You're the man. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime, man. This was fun.
All right. Cool.